The British royal family has survived wars, abdications, scandals, and centuries of scrutiny. But few modern royal stories are as strange, controversial, and endlessly fascinating as the saga of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. Behind palace walls, far away from balcony waves and carefully staged smiles, former royal aides have quietly painted a picture that is far more unsettling than the official version ever allowed the public to see. Whispers of bizarre personal rituals, explosive tantrums over luxury demands, a marriage that ended publicly, yet never truly ended privately, and aides who say they were pushed to their limits, trying to manage two of the most unpredictable figures ever to orbit the monarchy. Today, we're pulling back the velvet curtain. Because according to insiders, Andrew and Fergie weren't just difficult. They were in a league of their own. This is the story palace courtiers didn't want told. This is what royal aides say really went on behind closed doors. And once you hear it, you'll never see the House of Windsor the same way again. The palace never forgets, but it remembers everything. In the royal household, aides are trained to see everything and say nothing. They observe quietly. They remember meticulously. And for decades, they have kept secrets that would shock the public if ever revealed. Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, was once considered the Queen's favourite son. Handsome, confident, a decorated naval officer. He had everything going for him. Palace insiders say that early favouritism shaped Andrew's personality in ways that would later cause serious problems. According to former aides, Andrew grew accustomed to unquestioned obedience early on. Doors opened before he knocked. Requests were met without discussion. Problems were solved before he ever knew they existed. That level of indulgence, aides say, created expectations that followed him into adulthood. Expectations no modern royal household could realistically sustain. And then there was Sarah Ferguson. Fergie entered the royal family like a whirlwind. Loud, warm, impulsive, and unapologetically herself. At first, palace staff found her refreshing. She laughed with them, joked openly, and didn't carry the icy reserve associated with royal tradition. But that honeymoon period didn't last long. Aides claim that as the pressures of royal life mounted, Sarah's behaviour became increasingly erratic, swinging between charm and fury, affection and explosive frustration. Together, Andrew and Fergie formed what one former courtier reportedly described as a logistical nightmare wrapped in a love story. Andrew's routines that left aides stunned. One of the most persistent claims from former palace staff revolves around Prince Andrew's rigid personal routines. Aides allege that Andrew was obsessively particular about how his day unfolded. Every detail mattered, and any deviation could reportedly trigger irritation or outright anger. According to multiple insider accounts that have circulated in royal reporting circles, Andrew allegedly specific arrangements for his clothing, down to how garments were folded and laid out, daily schedules that could not be altered, even for emergencies, meals prepared in exact ways with no substitutions allowed, rooms arranged identically every time he entered them. Former aides say this wasn't mere preference, it was expectation. If something was out of place, staff claim Andrew would notice immediately. A misplaced item, a different scent, a minor delay. All of it, they say, could result in staff being reprimanded or replaced. Some insiders have even claimed that Andrew believed these routines helped him maintain order and project. Others felt it reflected a deeper need for control, especially as his public standing began to decline. Palace veterans note that while many royals have quirks, Andrew's were reportedly enforced with far less patience than most. The temperature, the lights, and the unwritten rules. Former aides have also described Andrew as intensely sensitive to his environment. According to reports attributed to palace insiders, room temperatures had to be set within an exact range. Lighting needed to be adjusted before he arrived. Even the way curtains were drawn mattered. One aide allegedly claimed that Andrew would comment if a room felt wrong, even if nothing visibly appeared out of place. Whether these claims reflect eccentricity, entitlement, or stress is open to interpretation. What is clear is that staff felt enormous pressure to anticipate his needs before he voiced them. And in royal households, anticipation is everything. Failing to anticipate could mean losing favour. Or worse, being quietly reassigned and never explained why. Sarah Ferguson and the demands that shocked staff. If Andrew was rigid, aides described Sarah Ferguson as emotionally unpredictable. Former palace employees have alleged that Sarah could be incredibly generous one moment, gifting staff items, thanking them personally, and deeply demanding the next. According to insider accounts, some of Sarah's requests reportedly included last-minute luxury accommodations beyond allocated budgets, designer wardrobes charged to accounts that required special approval, private travel arrangements changed repeatedly at short notice, requests for personal assistance far outside normal royal protocol, aides claim. Sarah struggled deeply with the constraints of royal life. She wanted freedom, attention, and comfort, all while being expected to follow strict rules she never fully accepted. Several former staffers have suggested that Sarah's frustrations were amplified by constant media scrutiny, especially during the height of tabloid culture in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Every misstep was photographed, every expression analysed, and behind the scenes, staff often bore the emotional fallout. A marriage that never really ended publicly, Andrew and Sarah divorced in 1996. Privately, aides say, nothing really changed. Former palace insiders have long hinted that Andrew and Sarah continued living in close proximity, sharing finances, holidays, and decision-making long after their marriage officially ended. Some aides reportedly found this confusing. Others found it exhausting. They weren't sure who was in charge, who to answer to, or whose instructions took priority when the two disagreed. According to long-circulating palace rumours, Andrew and Sarah maintained an emotional bond that defied conventional labels. Part ex-spouses, part allies, part codependent partners. And that unusual dynamic, aides say, often complicated already tense household operations. When royal aides start talking, it's important to understand that royal aides rarely speak publicly. When they do, it's often years later, through carefully worded interviews, biographies, or anonymous accounts shared with historians and journalists. Not every claim can be verified. Not every allegation reflects the full truth. But patterns emerge. Patterns of entitlement. Patterns of emotional volatility. Patterns of aides feeling overwhelmed and unheard. And those patterns are what keep this story alive. Why this story still matters. Today, Prince Andrew's reputation has been irrevocably damaged by controversy and public fallout. Sarah Ferguson, though more publicly rehabilitated, remains a figure of fascination and skepticism. But long before the headlines we know today, aides say warning signs were already there, hidden in routines, demands, and behaviours dismissed as royal eccentricities. The royal family thrives on tradition, silence, and controlled image. But when insiders finally speak, even in whispers, they reveal a side of monarchy rarely acknowledged. And that's why this story refuses to fade. Mid-script retention boost. If you're finding this story as shocking as Palace insiders did, make sure you're subscribed. Because what comes next is even more revealing. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into how Andrew's fall from grace changed palace attitudes overnight. The moments aides say crossed the line from difficult to unacceptable. Sarah Ferguson's financial controversies and the private reactions behind palace doors. And the one incident former staff say changed everything. The House of Windsor has always mastered the art of appearing timeless and untouchable. But behind the polished silver and historic walls are human stories. Flawed, messy, and deeply revealing. Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson weren't just controversial royals. According to those who served them, they were a case study in what happens when privilege collides with pressure. And this is only the beginning. Because the most damaging claims, the most uncomfortable truths, and the moments aides say finally broke their silence are still ahead.